Imagine being the richest man in the world, yet still feeling incomplete because history does not remember you as a conqueror. Throughout human history, powerful leaders, brilliant generals, and mighty nations have fallen not because they lacked strength, but because they made catastrophic decisions. This is a story about ambition, pride, failed strategy, and how a single miscalculation can cost thousands of lives. Welcome to the most disastrous military ventures in human history. In the 1st century BC, a man named Marcus Licinius Crassus stood as the wealthiest figure in the Roman Republic. He possessed limitless wealth, enormous political influence, and power capable of shaping Rome itself. Yet there was one thing money could never buy: military glory. Crassus envied the legendary reputations of Julius Caesar and Pompey the Great. Driven by ambition, he launched an invasion of the Parthian Empire in 53 BC. Confident of easy victory, he marched east with nearly 50,000 soldiers. From the very beginning, fate turned against him. A local chieftain he trusted secretly worked for Parthia and guided the Romans through harsh desert terrain. The Roman army arrived exhausted, dehydrated, and demoralized before battle even began. Near the city of Carrhae, they encountered a smaller but far more mobile Parthian force. Mounted archers attacked from distance, retreating whenever the Romans attempted pursuit. Crassus hoped the enemy would run out of arrows, unaware that thousands of camels carried endless supplies. In desperation, he ordered his son to lead a counterattack. It became a fatal mistake. The Parthians lured the Romans into a trap and annihilated them completely. They returned displaying his son's severed head to shatter Roman morale. Crassus attempted negotiations, but violence erupted and he was killed. According to legend, molten gold was poured down his throat to mock his greed. Out of 50,000 soldiers, only 10,000 survived to return home. Personal ambition had become national catastrophe. Centuries later, in Patunupi, another battle proved that numbers alone do not guarantee victory. The Battle of Agincourt placed a small English army against a French force 6 times larger. King Henry V carefully chose defensive terrain surrounded by woodland. The recently plowed muddy field narrowed the French advance. English longbowmen stood on the flanks protected by sharpened wooden stakes. Confident French knights charged forward in heavy armor. The mud slowed them almost to a halt. A relentless storm of arrows rained down upon the advancing army. Chaos spread as soldiers behind pushed forward into trapped comrades ahead. Within minutes, the first French assault collapsed. The second and third waves met the same fate. Mistaken reports of attack from the rear led Henry to order thousands of prisoners executed. When the battle ended, roughly 10,000 French soldiers lay dead. English losses numbered only in the hundreds. Overconfidence had transformed strength into humiliation. In 1812, military genius Napoleon Bonaparte made the greatest mistake of his career. At the height of his power, he launched the largest invasion force the world had ever seen against Russia. Nearly 700,000 soldiers advanced across Eastern Europe. Napoleon expected a decisive battle that would force the Russian Tsar to surrender quickly. Instead, Russian forces retreated while burning cities and crops behind them. There was no food, no shelter, and no decisive victory. Napoleon originally planned to stop at Smolensk for winter quarters. Ambition drove him onward toward Moscow. The Battle of Borodino produced a costly but incomplete victory. At the crucial moment, Napoleon refused to deploy his elite Imperial Guard. The Russian army survived. When Napoleon entered Moscow, he found the city abandoned and burning. He waited for peace negotiations that never came. Winter arrived with devastating force. Unprepared French soldiers froze, starved, and collapsed during retreat. Cossack attacks harassed the retreating columns endlessly. From hundreds of thousands, only a fraction survived. Napoleon later reflected that the distance between greatness and absurdity is only one step. After World War I, France built a massive defensive system known as the Maginot Line. They believed concrete fortifications would prevent another German invasion. Military planners dismissed the Ardennes forest as impassable for tanks. German commanders thought otherwise. Armored divisions surged through the weakly defended region. French forces advancing into Belgium could not return in time. Within 40 days, France collapsed despite its powerful defenses. Expensive preparation failed because the fundamental assumption was wrong. In Southeast Asia in 1954, France faced another disaster at Dien Bien Phu. French paratroopers occupied an isolated valley hoping to lure Viet Minh forces into open battle. The plan appeared brilliant on paper. However, the valley was surrounded by high hills. The Viet Minh dragged heavy artillery through jungle terrain and placed guns overlooking the base. Anti-aircraft fire devastated French supply aircraft. Many supply drops fell directly into enemy hands. The siege tightened day by day. Defensive positions fell one after another. After 2 months, the French garrison surrendered. The defeat ended French colonial dominance in Indochina. In the Soviet Union, catastrophe began years before World War II even started. During the late 1930s, Joseph Stalin launched massive military purges. Experienced generals, innovative officers, and strategic thinkers were imprisoned or executed. The once creative Red Army became fearful and rigid. When Germany invaded in 1941, Soviet forces lacked capable leadership. Stalin ignored repeated intelligence warnings about an imminent attack. Troops were forbidden from preparing defensive measures. Entire armies were surrounded and captured in massive encirclements. In the first 6 months of war, Soviet casualties reached unprecedented levels. Although the Soviet Union ultimately prevailed, the early losses were catastrophic. In 1967, tensions in the Middle East escalated dramatically. Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser faced pressure to demonstrate strength against Israel. He delivered fiery speeches and mobilized troops into the Sinai Peninsula. United Nations peacekeepers were ordered to withdraw. A crucial maritime passage was closed to Israeli shipping. What began as political bluff soon appeared as genuine preparation for war. Israel chose to strike first. Preemptive air attacks destroyed most of Egypt's air force on the ground. With air superiority secured, Israeli ground forces advanced rapidly. Within 6 days, Sinai, Gaza, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights were captured. Arab losses were vastly higher. Nasser's prestige suffered a blow from which it never fully recovered. History repeatedly reveals the same pattern. Leaders become overconfident. Assumptions replace reality. Personal ambition overrides rational calculation. And ordinary soldiers pay the ultimate price. From Crassus to Napoleon, from the Maginot Line to Dien Bien Phu, strategic mistakes carry real consequences. Victory often belongs not to the strongest army, but to the side that understands the battlefield best. Pride, misinformation, and wishful thinking create the conditions for disaster. History is not merely a record of the past, but a warning for the future. Every general believes his plan will succeed. Every leader thinks they are different from those who failed before. But war exposes illusion with brutal honesty. A single decision can alter the course of civilization. The greatest lesson from these catastrophes is clear. Power without wisdom is dangerous. Wealth does not guarantee victory. Large armies do not ensure success. Advanced technology cannot replace sound judgment. And sometimes the most dangerous enemy is one's own ego. When we look back at these tragedies, we see that history is shaped by choices. The choice to attack or wait. The choice to listen to advice or ignore it. The choice to learn from the past or repeat it. Behind every military disaster lies a human story. Soldiers who trusted their leaders. Families waiting for loved ones who never returned. Nations forced to rebuild after devastating defeat. These stories endure not to glorify war, but to understand failure. Not to celebrate destruction, but to remember consequences. History survives because humanity must keep learning. History never truly ends. It lives within the decisions of today's leaders. It whispers lessons from the past. And it reminds us that one mistake can change the world. If there is one message drawn from all these events, it is simple. Ambition without strategy invites destruction. Confidence without realism leads to tragedy. And true victory often begins with avoiding fatal mistakes. Thank you for joining this journey through some of history's most dramatic military catastrophes. May these stories remind us that wisdom is often more powerful than strength, because in human history, the greatest victory is not conquering the world, but understanding our own limits.